Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about the degrees in terms of a polynomial. In the last video, I talked about what a polynomial is. In the next video, after we know what degrees and terms are, we'll be able to name our polynomials. So we're just taking some baby steps here because I want to make sure you understand. All right, let's get started. So in number one here, it's asking us to find the degree and the number of terms. Well, your degree is your largest exponent with your variable. So when I look at number one, I have 4x to the third minus 9. There's no other variables in this expression, so the degree is 3. It's the biggest exponent. And your terms are separated by math operations. I've got 4x minus 9. So the 4x and your 9 are separated by that operation of minus. So we've got 2 terms. The next one, take a look at your exponents with your variables. I've got a 7 and I've got a 5. Well, 7 is bigger than 5, so 7 is our degree. And how many terms do we have? I've got 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms. I don't know if you noticed or not, but here you had one math operation, and you ended up with 2 terms. Here you have 2 math operations, and you ended up with 3 terms. So there is a pattern to go with this. All right, the next one, let's look at the exponents. I've got a 5. This is a 1. If there's nothing there, it's understood to be 1. And then I've got an 11. Well, what's the biggest number? 11. So that's our degree. And how many terms do we have? We got 1, 2, 3. 3 terms. If you look, I've got an operation here and I've got an operation here. It's always one more. Next, I've got 9, 4, 21, and 3. What's the biggest? 21. So that's our degree. Now, the next here, how many terms? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. How was that? Are we doing okay? Because they're going to get a little more difficult on the next page. But that's all right. I think we can handle this. So let's go on to the next page. Look at that first problem. It doesn't even have any variables. So is it an expression? Is it a polynomial? Yes, it is. I want you to think back. I don't know if you've watched my other videos or not, but I discussed when you have an exponent that is 0. So if I gave you x to the 0, that's the same thing as 1, because anything to the 0 is 1. So I can take this constant and I can put an x to the 0 next to it. It doesn't change it. It's still 23, because 23 times 1 is 23. So the degree of any constant would be 0. Now, the number of terms, well, we only got 1 number, so we got 1 term. The next one, if we look here, we've got more than 1 letter. So what does that mean? That means in each term, you have to add the exponents that go with that letter. So I've got a 6, and that's end of the 1, so that's a total of 7. Here I've got 3 plus 5, that's 8. This is just n to the 1, and this is an 8. So what's the largest? Well, we've got a tie here for 8, so 8 is our degree. And then how many terms do we have? I got 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms. Remember, our terms are separated by operations. I've got 1 operation, 2 operations, 3 operations. It's always 1 more than that. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Well, 2 is just the same thing as 2x to the 0, so that would be a 0. Here, I've got 7 and 1 makes 8. In the next term, I've got 12. And then in the last term, I got 3 plus 3 plus 4, which is 10. What's the biggest number? 12. So that's our degree. And how many terms do we have? Well, if I count the signs, the operations, I got 1, 2, 3, so I should end up with 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 terms. Now, this last one is going to be a little different. I haven't explained anything like this yet. If in the expression there are like terms, which means they've got the same letters with the same exponents, we've got to combine them before we decide what the degree in terms are of the polynomial. So when I look here, I've got 5x cubes plus 13x cubes. That gives me 18x cubes. And then I've got a negative 3p and a negative 4p. That gives me a negative 7p. That's going to change our answer. What is the biggest exponent? It's a 3, so that's my degree. But how many terms do I have? I only have 2 terms here. Whereas if we would have done it from the original problem, we would have said 4, and that would have been wrong. So if you can simplify the polynomial before saying the number of degrees or terms, you need to do that. Otherwise, your answer could be wrong. All right? So now we have an understanding of degrees and terms. The next video, we're going to name them. We're actually going to use these same problems and we're going to name them. All right. If this was helpful, I would appreciate if you subscribed and shared. Thank you.